It began like any other morning in Hollywood, the sun glinting off palm leaves and marquees. Yet by midday the world was in shock. Demi Moore, icon of 20th century beauty, fearless box office queen, indomitable warrior, had been dealt a cruel blow. A tragic diagnosis so severe it forced her to confront her own mortality and whisper, perhaps for the first time in decades, the words goodbye to the life she once commanded. Fans erupted online with disbelief. Comments poured in, "This can't be real. She's stronger than any disease. Please fight, Demi." Yet behind the collective prayers and heartfelt gifts lay a stark, unvarnished truth. Even legends bleed, and even legends break. From the height of glamour to the brink of farewell, Demi's journey has always been painted in bold contrasts. To understand her latest battle, we must trace the jagged path that brought her here, through abandonment, betrayal, stardom, and rebirth. Because in every shadow she survived, we recognize a sliver of ourselves. Long before the red carpet gowns and magazine covers, there was Demi Jean Guine, born November 11, 1962 in Roswell, New Mexico. A place famous for UFOs but haunted for her by a far darker mystery, the absence of love. Her parents split before she could form a memory of unity. Her unstable mother, shackled by addiction, dragged her from town to town, seeking safety that never lasted. A stepfather's rage and alcohol cast long, lonely nights in a home without warmth. At 15, her innocence was stolen when her own mother sold her first night to a stranger for $500. The transaction shattered something profound, a young girl's belief that love was sacred and unbreakable. With no money and no place to go, she ran away, clutching only broken dreams and an unquenchable will to survive. Alone on park benches, in menial jobs, she learned to measure her worth in resilience rather than affection. Then fate intervened in the form of a modeling scout who saw in her haunted eyes not tragedy, but raw, aching beauty. Hollywood beckoned like a glittering oasis, but she stepped forward with caution, haunted by the knowledge that spotlights can burn as fiercely as they warm. The 1990 release of Ghost changed everything. The pottery wheel scene immortalized Demi as a paragon of love's enduring power, her face and hands framed in soft candlelight becoming an emblem of passion itself. Yet while audiences swooned, Demi felt an uncanny resonance. The film's story of loss and yearning mirrored her secret emptiness. Her transformation into Hollywood royalty was complete, but her heart remained a battlefield. Despite Oscar nominations and record paychecks, she never stopped striving to fill that void through work, through public adoration, through the next role that could prove her worthy of the love she'd always lacked. She married and divorced Freddie Moore, then stunned the world by walking down the aisle with Bruce Willis, the ultimate action hero opposite her own fierce femininity. Fans called them Tinseltown's golden couple. Magazines crowned her a feminist icon for demanding equal pay. Yet behind closed doors she grappled with fear. Would his love endure once the cameras dimmed? As Bruce's career soared, her role as devoted wife and mother anchored her, even as loneliness crept in when she was left in Idaho's snowy seclusion. She threw herself into daring parts, Indecent Proposal, G.I. Jane, each performance a masked plea to feel seen, to feel real. Still, every applause echo bounced back as a reminder that fame could never heal the scars carved into her soul by abandonment and betrayal. Then came the collapse. In the spring of 2012, after nights of insomnia, extreme dieting and a cocktail of stimulants and sedatives, Demi Moore crashed, literally into crisis. Hospital gurneys, flashing cameras, stigma-laden headlines. Hollywood goddess goes mad for love, beauty breaks down. Her body and mind, driven past the brink, forced the world to see her at her most fragile. In the months that followed, she vanished from public view, seeking refuge and healing in anonymity. Therapy became her lifeline, a place to face childhood demons and forgive the mother who had both birthed and betrayed her. She learned to breathe again, to name her pain without flinching, to stitch together a sense of self beyond roles, red carpets, or anyone else's expectations. Slowly, her 3 daughters returned. Hesitant calls gave way to tearful embraces. She discovered that motherhood could be both redemption and challenge, trying to atone for lost love by perfect parenting, risking the same fear of abandonment she once felt. Yet in their eyes, she saw unconditional love unfold, proof that her worth was not defined by fame or fortune, but by her capacity to survive. When her memoir Inside Out debuted, readers connected not to gossip, but to raw humanity. They recognized in Demi's unvarnished confessions their own quests to heal and belong. The woman who once ran from the past had learned to welcome it as a teacher rather than an enemy. No longer chasing youth, she embraced her wrinkles, gray hairs, and the peace that comes from authenticity. Now, confronted by a diagnosis that may demand her final farewell, Demi Moore stands at another crossroads. Will she yield to the shadows of doubt, or will her lifelong resilience flare once more? Fans hold their breath, but they know this isn't a simple goodbye. It's another chapter in a saga of courage, of a girl who survived being loved by no one and became worthy of being loved by millions. In the chapters ahead, we'll explore how she's facing this ultimate test, what treatments she's pursuing, how her family rallies around her, and the lessons her journey holds for anyone grappling with loss, fear, or the daunting unknown. Because sometimes, the greatest power we can summon is the same power Demi has wielded since she was a runaway teenager, the refusal to let darkness define us. Early reports suggested a grueling treatment plan, a combination of experimental medication, intense physiotherapy, and a strict regimen of rest. But if Hollywood has taught us anything, it is that no script is written in stone. Behind closed doors, Demi's medical team moves like characters in a well-oiled ensemble cast, each specialist bringing a unique expertise to the table. Neurologists dissect brain scans, oncologists consult blood markers, and holistic healers offer meditation and nutrition protocols. It is the ultimate crossover, science and spirit joining forces to confront an enemy with no regard for fame or fortune. Her friends worry. Some recall the bright, vivacious Demi who hosted intimate wine nights in her LA home, laughter echoing through softly lit rooms as she shared stories of triumph over tragedy. Others remember the introvert who vanished from public view after every heartbreak, preferring solitude over scrutiny. Now, as she faces this latest ordeal, she leans on both sides of her identity. She surrenders to vulnerability in therapy sessions, confession as healing. Then she rallies her inner fighter in the gym, pushing muscles to remind her body that strength can outlast fear. Across social media, hashtags bloom like wounded flowers, side fight like Demi, hope for Demi, Demi Moore strong. Every day, amateur sleuths dissect grainy paparazzi photos for signs of hair loss, gaunt cheeks, or a new medical bracelet. Celebrity gossip sites churn out speculative headlines identifying supposed insider sources who claim that Demi's grandchildren sobbed during visits. The frenzy mirrors our collective desire for both hope and heartbreak. We seek catharsis in her struggle, projecting our own fears of mortality onto the screen of her private pain. Her daughters hover by her side, a living tether between past and future. Rumor, Scout, and Tallulah, now women forging their own identities, balance reverence with the raw grief of watching a mother who once conquered every director's cut, now struggle for every breath. They bring laughter and childhood memories to hospital corridors, carrying with them the innocence that once eluded their mother. In their presence, Demi glimpses a new definition of love, unconditional, unwavering, immune to the fading of youth or fame. In interviews conducted before news of her condition leaked, she spoke of her desire to redefine success, not as box office numbers or magazine covers, but as days marked by genuine connection and inner peace. She confessed she felt an urge to finish her memoirs, not to relive pain, but to grant others permission to voice their own stories. That project was paused when fatigue overtook her, when hand tremors made pen strokes impossible, yet the seed planted by her intention still inspires. Bookshelves around the world await the final pages she has yet to write. Meanwhile, inside upscale treatment centers and experimental trial facilities, the fight continues. Reports leak of sleepless nights and tears that follow every injection. Close friends whisper about days when physical pain eclipsed the emotional turmoil she had carried for decades. Yet there were also moments of serene beauty. The sunrise she watched break over Pac-12 foothills during a walking meditation, the choir of birds greeting her as if celebrating her perseverance, the quiet epiphany that life can be infinitely fragile and infinitely precious in the same breath. At her insistence, cameras captured these fleeting scenes, rare glimpses of a star stripped of artifice. Social media videos show her candlelit reflection practice, unfiltered laughter as she recalls a childhood song, whispered prayers to unseen forces guiding her. This new transparency rewrites celebrity narrative. By inviting us into her healing journey, she dissolves the barrier between icon and individual. Viewers feel not like spectators, but witnesses to a rebirth in real time. They're drawn into her intimate universe, invested in every falter and triumph. In this unfolding saga, every detail matters. A single Instagram post can raise stock in her prognosis. Even a hashtag of support can feel like a collective embrace that transcends distance. Celebrities send video messages, activists organize fundraisers, and fans share stories of hope to shore up strength. It is the Elysian blend of empathy and action, an ecosystem where public sentiment shapes private reality. Meanwhile, Demi chooses her words carefully, sharing updates that pulse with both vulnerability and fierce resolve. Her spirit refuses surrender. Deep within the sterile corridors of her treatment facility, Demi confronts an adversary that cares nothing for fame or fortune. Every day begins with a sunrise alarm and ends with a nightly regimen that blends science, spirit, and sheer will. And yet, beneath the white coat's solemnity, Echoes of her past resilience flicker like a beacon. This same girl who once escaped a childhood stolen by betrayal, who taught herself to walk on blistered feet toward a dream, now reminds us that the strongest steel is forged in fire. In private moments, Demi returns to the memories that shaped her steel. A faded photograph of her younger self, perched on a park bench with questions heavier than her thin jacket, often sits beside her bedside. In the quiet lull before dawn, she recalls running from a house where love was conditional, where trust was a currency she could never afford. Yet that memory now fuels a quiet determination. She survived then, she can survive now. Every challenge since, breaking box office records, demanding equal pay, shattering glass ceilings, feels like prelude to this ultimate confrontation. Her daughters have become her compass. Rumor's steadfast presence in experimental treatment rooms feels like a North Star guiding her back to hope. Scout's laughter, when faint, echoes through hallways that once knew pain. Tallulah hand on her mother's trembling one is a silent pact. They will not yield to despair. In their eyes, Demi sees her broken story rewritten into narratives of healing. When she feels weakness, they remind her of the fierce survivor behind every image. Love is both a wound and a salve. Today it is her armor. Beyond family, a global community rallies as one heartbeat. Every tweet, every bouquet sent to her hospital suite, every vigil held under candlelight at landmarks around the world, pulses with one message: she is not alone. Social media movements transcend fandom. They become collective prayers. Mental health advocates applaud her candor, using her story to illuminate the realities of chronic illness. Even rival stars set aside tabloid gossip to send video messages of solidarity. In an industry known for fleeting loyalties, Demi's vulnerability has fostered a rare unity, thousands of strangers binding their voices in a chorus that drowns out isolation. She has also turned inward, reawakening spiritual practices she once dismissed in her busiest years. Meditation sessions with soft chants, mindful breathing exercises that halt adrenaline-fueled panic, and silent retreats in remote sanctuaries remind her that life's greatest cure often hides behind stillness. In yoga's gentle flow, she rediscovers grace. In the repetition of a mantra, she rediscovers faith. Her medical team supports this holistic approach, confirming that when mind and body align, resistance to disease strengthens. What was once a privilege afforded by wealth now becomes a lifeline accessible to anyone willing to pause and listen. During this time, she's also planning her next book, fragments of which appear in essays published online, where readers marvel at her unvarnished honesty. She writes about fear, hope, forgiveness, and the art of encountering pain without becoming it. Her words spread rapidly, sparking virtual support groups, book clubs, and charity partnerships. Proceeds from early pre-orders go to medical research and mental health nonprofits. In an industry that once exploited her image for profit, Demi now reclaims her legacy by turning each sentence into a tool for change. It is activism born from suffering, transformed into a beacon for others. Even as her body fights, her spirit undertakes its own metamorphosis. Scars that once felt like indelible marks of failure now appear as brushstrokes in a masterpiece of survival. She acknowledges that welcoming vulnerability does not diminish strength, it recalibrates it. Each tremor in her hand is a testament to battles hard won and battles yet to come. When she looks in the mirror, she sees more than wrinkles or depletion. She sees a living testament to the power of rising, falling, and rising again. It is a narrative arc that transcends the silver screen, a story as old as humanity itself. The coming months will test her resolve, revealing whether cutting-edge treatments can tame an unpredictable foe. Yet in this decisive chapter, one truth endures. Demi Moore has never surrendered to definition or destiny. From a nameless girl sold for $500,000 to a Hollywood icon who stands at the precipice of an unknown tomorrow, her life remains an ode to possibility. As fans hold their digital breath and loved ones gather close, we prepare to witness the next act. Will she emerge triumphant once again, or will this represent her final bow? Only time and her indomitable will tell. Her courage inspires millions to stand together in unwavering global support. Now at the heart of her medical crusade, Demi Moore has embraced a multidisciplinary approach that blends cutting-edge science with time-honored healing traditions. Her primary specialist has designed a tailored pharmaceutical cocktail, combining immunotherapy infusions with neuroprotective agents that target the aggressive cells undermining her nervous system. Simultaneously, a team of physical therapists crafts a daily regimen of gentle stretching, resistance training, and aquatic exercises. Each movement is a negotiation with pain, a testament to her unwavering determination to reclaim autonomy over her body. Even simple tasks, lifting a glass of water, walking across a sunlit garden become symbolic victories in her relentless campaign for recovery. Beyond the clinic, Demi has enlisted the wisdom of integrative practitioners. At sunrise, she partakes in guided breathwork sessions led by a renowned yogi, whose soft voice encourages her to expand her lungs beyond fear and inhale courage. By midday, acupuncture needles release subtle currents of energy along her meridians, easing inflammation and grounding her restless spirit. Evening sightings of her meditating by candlelight captured on fan-shared videos show her silhouette at peace, as if the flickering flame mirrors the fragile yet persistent light within her soul. While skeptics question alternative therapies, Demi's choice underscores a fundamental truth. Healing is as much an art as a science, and no single modality can claim exclusivity over restoration. Amid these treatments, she continues to nurture her creative spark. The partial manuscript of her second memoir, tentatively titled Phoenix Rising, lies on her bedside table. Each page brims with insights garnered from hardship, the alchemy of turning shame into self-love, the blueprint for forging resilience, the map that guides fellow wanderers through their own darkness. Writers from around the world pour into virtual workshops she hosts, where she reads excerpts, invites dialogue, and reframes her own trauma as a shared heritage. Every typed comment, every heartfelt question reminds her of writing's regenerative power, not merely to document survival, but to catalyze community healing on a global scale. Her social circle has expanded beyond Hollywood's glittering fringe. Childhood friends who once worried over runaway letters now cruise into her life as anchors of unconditional care. Former co-stars share whispered medical insights gleaned from personal experience. Celebrities known for glamour trade designer gowns for hospital scrubs as they volunteer in treatment centers. Activists spotlight Demi's journey as a clarion call for policy reform in healthcare access. Suddenly, her personal trial transcends stardom to become a lightning rod for social change. In her vulnerability, she leads a movement, a call to unravel stigmas around chronic illness, to demand research funding, and to make mental health support ubiquitous rather than a luxury. Yet the battle remains unpredictable. Some days dawn with physical triumph, muscles that ached now responding to commands, cognition sharp despite chemo-induced fog. Other nights are fraught with new symptoms, fatigue so profound that her own heartbeat thunders like a drum of war within her chest. In these moments, despair whispers seductively, "Rest is defeat." But Demi counters this voice by reaching for her daughter's voices recorded on her phone, their laughter like lifelines. She anchors herself with vivid memories. The first time she spun clay on that fateful pottery wheel, the exhilaration of stepping onto a red carpet she never imagined, the realization that every applause once rang hollow until she learned to applaud herself. In the midst of clinical appointments and holistic rituals, Demi Moore's emotional terrain remains as complex as her physical one. She vacillates between fear that the diagnosis will define her legacy and gratitude that this ordeal offered her a chance to strip away the artifice she once valued above all else. No longer does she measure success by box office metrics or magazine spreads. Instead, she gauges triumph by quiet moments, a heartfelt conversation with a longtime friend, the ache-free flex of muscle, the clarity that arises when mind and body align. These personal victories, though unheralded by tabloids, form the backbone of her renewed identity. When Demi first chased stardom, every setback, an audition rejection, a tabloid rumor, felt like a blow to her already fragile self-image. Those challenges led to fierce performances and headline-making battles over pay equity. Each conquest seemed to stitch a new piece into her armor. Yet this latest trial asks more of her than any script ever will. Here, the stakes are not critical acclaim, but the raw essence of life itself. The same determination that won her battles with directors, studios, and industry patriarchs now fuels her as she confronts an unknown and merciless opponent within her own cells. Demi's ordeal has also catalyzed a philanthropic awakening. In collaboration with leading medical foundations, she helped launch the Moore Foundation for Renewal, an initiative designed to fund research into rare diseases often overlooked by mainstream grantmakers. Donors large and small poured in contributions, inspired by her transparency and her refusal to compartmentalize suffering behind a celebrity veil. She hosts regular virtual summits, inviting scientists, survivors, and caregivers to share breakthroughs, setbacks, and strategies. These gatherings not only accelerate promising therapies, but also build a resilient community bound by shared vulnerability. In breaking her own silence, Demi has created a platform where stigma falls away and collective ingenuity drives the next wave of medical innovation. Embedded within Demi Moore's fight are universal truths about fear, resilience, and the threaded power of vulnerability. She demonstrates that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but an act of courage. Every candid update, every moment of doubt laid bare, taps into our primal need to belong and be seen. Viewers who thought their own struggles were too trivial witness in her struggle a mirror reflecting heartbreak, hope, and hard-won strength. This identification triggers a different kind of FOMO, not for glamorous red carpets, but for participation in a heroic narrative where each commenter, each shared post, becomes a witness, an ally, a guardian of her story and the countless stories it inspires. As this chapter closes, the mosaic of Demi Moore's life reveals an inherent pattern. From girl sold for survival to superstar, from breakdown to rebirth, and now from patient to patient advocate. In the next section we'll chronicle critical decisions looming on the horizon, advanced clinical trials that could redefine treatment protocols, potential side effects that test the limits of her spirit, and the crucial question of what legacy she will leave for her daughters and fans around the world. Because in the story of Demi Moore, every ending births a fresh beginning. Now as Demi stands at the threshold of possibility, a web of critical decisions unfolds before her. The path ahead offers advanced clinical trials promising hope but demanding unimaginable sacrifice. Leading research centers propose novel immunotherapies and neurologic interventions that could alter her prognosis. Each protocol reads like the crossing of two worlds, science daring the unknown and spirit urging faith in renewal. Yet these trials carry unknown risks. Demi and her physicians must weigh each protocol's promise against potential harm, disruptive immune reactions, cognitive side effects, or debilitating fatigue that could eclipse any benefit. In surgical consultations, neurosurgeons outline aggressive procedures requiring weeks of recovery, forcing trade-offs few would contemplate. Every choice demands her to ask what she values most: years of extended life or quality in each fleeting moment. Some studies explore gene-editing vectors, aiming to correct neural deterioration at its root. The science reads like fiction: enzymes programmed to repair damaged tissue, viral carriers ushering healing at a cellular level. Yet preliminary data warns of severe inflammatory responses and unintended genetic disruptions, storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Demi must decide whether to trust cutting-edge discoveries or rest on established therapies that promise stability but not reversal of decline. Then there are the regimens of targeted metabolic therapies, low-dose radiation protocols devised to isolate errant cells, and experimental biologics that engage the immune system's own arsenal. Reports of success are tempered by tales of patients battered by side effects, nausea that steals appetite, neuropathy that steals feeling, and psychological upheavals that steal peace. For someone who has known fight in her bones, the battle now wears hidden armor tightened by doubt. Inside her inner circle, debates simmer. Her primary oncologist counsels a conservative approach. Maintain balance, he says, warning that overtreatment can become its own affliction. Her neurologist, however, advocates urgency. Time is the enemy. They break into spirited discussions over weekend retreats at sunny villas, chalk on blackboards, data charts flickering, voices rising in the name of truth. Demi listens, takes notes, and ultimately understands that the final choice rests in her resolve. Meanwhile, her daughters form a strategic advisory panel. Rumor, the eldest, combs through medical literature by daylight, then quizzing her mother over tea each evening. Scout follows the latest patient testimonials on support forums, seeking community wisdom in crowded digital rooms. Tallulah studies healing arts, later guiding Demi through gentle yoga flows when pain flares. Each contributes unique expertise, forging a familial alliance against a foe that respects neither stardom nor legacy.